Hello, my name is Larilyn Maligdong and today we will discuss writing the research proposal. Value of research proposals. The best research is well planned, and a key step in carrying out such planning is the preparation of a research proposal. Research proposals are required of doctoral students as an indication that they are prepared to conduct their research properly. They are also necessary for applying for outside funding or grants for research project. Organization and content of a typical proposal. The format of a research proposal will vary somewhat according to the purpose of the proposal and the institutions involved, but the major components are generally the same and are presented below in the order in which they usually occur. Title page. Most sponsoring agencies specify the format for the title page and may even provide a special form for doctoral students to use. Abstract. Most research proposals, with the possible exception of dissertation proposals, should provide a short summary or abstract of about 200 words. Some readers read only the abstract and others rely on it for a quicker overview of the proposal. Table of contents. A table of contents is not always deemed necessary, especially for brief proposals, but it is useful for presenting an overview of the organization of the proposal. In addition to outlining the major components of the proposal, it may provide lists of illustrations, tables, appendices, and so on. Introduction and statement of the problem. Introducing the subject of a research proposal is an important step and should be brief and avoid unnecessary redundancy. This section also should indicate the importance of the proposed study, or why a solution is needed. Examples of common sources of such information in the field of library and information science are also included below. 1. Terminology, the ALA Glossary of Library and Information Science, edited by Hartzell Young, American Library Association. 1983. 2. Brief Background, Encyclopedia of Library and Information Science, 3rd ed., edited by Marcia Bates, Volume 1-4, CRC Press, 2010, also available online, with the purchase of the print version, Encyclopedia of Library and Information Science, Volume 1-73. 3. Trends, Library Trends, 1952, Quarterly, and the Annual Review of Information Science and Technology, Assist, 1966. 4. Statistics agencies regularly gathering and publishing statistics about libraries or librarians. 5. Biographical information, ALA Membership Directory, 1950, Annual, combined with the ALA Handbook of Organization since 1980. 6. Directory Type Information, American Library Directory, the ALA Handbook of Organization, Annual. During 2009-10 ALA is transitioning this to an online Handbook of Organization, Directory of Special Libraries and Information Centers, 3 volumes. 7. Bibliographical data, see the indexes cited in the Review of Related Research. Review of related research, or literature review, is in effect an expansion of the historical background presented in the problem section. Non-research reports and opinion pieces should generally be excluded from consideration unless they are particularly insightful or represent all that have been written on the problem. Research design. Returning to the outline of a typical research proposal, the next section usually is devoted to a description of the proposed research. Almost always written for the specialist rather than the layperson, it includes the following elements. 1. Goals and objectives. A goals and objectives section, identified as such, is not always included at this point. 2. Hypothesis. At this time, the major research hypothesis, or hypotheses, should be stated. 3. Assumptions. Basic assumptions are usually given after the hypothesis statement. 4. Definitions: the operational or working definitions for key terms and terms that are used in a unique way logically follow the hypothesis and assumptions. 5. Methodology: the next large section in the typical proposal describes the research methodology. 6. Treatment of the data. Next, the researcher should describe how he or she proposes to analyze the data to be collected. Institutional resources. It may be useful to describe relevant institutional resources that are available to support the proposed research project. Items in this section may include computer facilities, library resources, and survey research personnel. Personnel. A personnel section describing personnel to be employed in the study may be necessary for grant proposals or for projects involving a relatively large number of people. A personnel section is rarely needed for individual research projects, such as dissertation research, though funding agencies often require the submission of a resume for the principal investigator. Budget. Budgets are an attempt to estimate as realistically as possible the costs of completing research projects. The budget provides a means to monitor the project's financial activities over the life of the project. A certain amount of budget flexibility is desirable, and underestimating costs reduces that potential. A typical budget will usually contain at least the following items. 1. Salaries and wages. Personnel costs are determined essentially by translating the time and staffing into appropriate salaries and wages. 2. Space. Itemized here are the costs, if any, of providing space for the project. For example, the rental of an office would be included here. 3. Equipment costs, whether purchased or rented. 4. Materials and supplies. Provided here are the costs for consumable materials and items such as miscellaneous office supplies. 5. Travel expenses. 6. Support services, expenses related to the use of services and facilities such as computers and photocopiers. 7. Miscellaneous expenses, additional costs related to telephone service, purchase of books, postage, and so on. 8. Indirect costs, costs that cannot directly be identified with a particular project, such as library services, utilities, accounting, maintenance, secretarial support, and so on. 9. Budget summary. If the budget is relatively long, it may be advisable to provide a summary of the budget, listing major items only. Anticipated results. Returning to the outline of the research proposal, the next common section is an evaluation of expected project results, or the likely impact of the study. This information is particularly important for grant proposals, as the potential funding agency must be convinced of the value of the research project. Limitations of the study. Typically, the last section of the text of a research proposal points out the limitations of the project. While the researcher does not want to be negative at this point, it is important to note, in a few concise statements, the limitations imposed by the research method, setting, and so on. Back matter. In a grant proposal, the writer usually provides a list of references or cited works and a bibliography. If there are fewer than 6, they often are inserted in the text. If there are more, a separate section is probably warranted. A researcher may also elect to provide a timetable outlining the dates by which he or she expects to have completed certain stages of the proposed study. Characteristics of good proposal. It is important that a research proposal be a straightforward document that includes only that which contributes to an understanding of the problem and its proposed solution. While it should be well written, its primary purpose is to communicate clearly, not to be a literary masterpiece. Features that detract from a proposal. Proposals for research grants often suffer if they are incomplete or don't conform to the guidelines of the funding or approving agency. It is not unusual for research proposals to lack a clear and explicit budget, for example. In 2002, the National Institute of Child Health and Human Development listed the most common reasons for rejecting research proposals. The most common reasons for rejection include: A. Lack of new or original ideas. B. Diffuse, superficial, or unfocused research plan. C. Lack of knowledge of published relevant work. D. Lack of experience in the essential methodology. E. Uncertainty concerning the future directions of the research. Obtaining funding for LIS research. If a proposal has been written at the request of a specific funding agency, or in response to a RFP, or request for proposal, seeking funds is relatively easy. An agency should be contacted at an early stage and ask for whatever advice they are able to give as the proposal develops. Summary. The proposal is the outline of a researcher's research project and represents the careful planning that precedes a well-conceived study. It should spell out the details of a proposed research project and serve as a guide to which the researcher may refer as he or she carries out the study. The most common problems with proposals are unexplained proposals, unsound designs, and unqualified investigators.